Good morning, soul travelers, and welcome to another episode of Death Stories Living Truth. This is Janae of Living Truth, and today's episode is coming from at Round Trip Death. At Round Trip Death. I will leave it in the description if you'd like to watch the full episode by yourself. So, like I always say, I'm so grateful to have you here with me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for this community. It's super special, and I'm super excited to have you. So today we are getting into a near-death experience, which we haven't done for a few weeks, actually, I believe. It's been a while since we've done a near-death experience.
Close, and then they paddled my heart had stopped, and I could see people screaming and crying, but I didn't realise that was actually my physical body because I was somewhere else. Close, and then they paddled my heart had stopped, and I could see people screaming and crying, but I didn't realise that was actually my physical body because I was somewhere else.
The only thing that I could feel, if you can imagine, absolute love and peace. There wasn't anything else to be felt.
I was greeted by people I'd known in the past.
I'm back home again.
Incredibly safe and felt at home.
I'd like to welcome today our really special guest, Lynn Arches-Rappaport. How are you, Lynn?
Good. Thank you for having me.
We've been threatening to get together for a long time. I'm glad we can finally do it today.
Today's good. A good day to do it.
People are going to love to hear your story. I'll just tease it a little bit. It has something to do with surfing and the ocean, and that all sounds wonderful. Before we jump into it, let's just get to know you a little bit, if you don't mind. Tell us about Lynn.
Okay. Well, I live in Massachusetts. I'm a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 2. So my 3 children are adults in their early mid 30s, soon to be 40, and my grandchildren are 7 and 2. And I'm also a teacher. I've been teaching and mentoring teachers. I teach chemistry and math, and I've also mentored teachers over the years in phenomenology.
And I believe it was Bridget Cook-Birch that referred you to us, and we appreciate her for that. She was great. She was on the show about a month or so ago, and really beautiful.
She has an amazing story. Beautiful work that she's doing. Just a beautiful human being.
Yeah. Well, that's why you work here, right?
That's right. I can't imagine working with anybody else unless they're beautiful human beings.
All right. Well, I think we ought to jump right into it. Take us back a few years. Tell us where you were and what led up to that faithful day.
Yeah, a few years. Boy, that was probably almost 50 years ago, 48 years ago.
I was trying not to expose that side of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But the truth is the truth. And I was surfing with my boyfriend. We were in Puerto Rico. He had already gone out. He was surfing. And I was kind of new at surfing at that time. So I took my time watching the waves, kind of snorkeling around to see what was on the bottom of the ocean where we were staying. So when I went out, I misjudged the waves, and I got caught on an inside set of waves, which means that, waves break in sets. They might come in 4, 6, or 8. There might be a lull, kind of a lull in between the waves, making it seem like maybe there's only 4 waves to a set. And which is kind of what I had misjudged, thinking that there were 4 to 6 waves to a set, and there were actually about 8 to 12 waves a set, and they were pretty big. I thought they were about 4 to 6 feet, about shoulder height, which is about what I could surf, but they were much bigger and they were very, very powerful. And they call Puerto Rico Little Hawaii because it's very similar, the reef bottom and the thickness of the waves. So when those waves really hit you, it feels like a ton of bricks are falling on me. I got pushed under the water, and basically it was a drowning experience that I had had. And I was pulled up out of my body And when I was pulled up out of my body, I
Amberly,
could see
leave
what was
sister
going on
alone.
below
Go watch
me.
your show
And I could
knock it
also see
off.
in front of me my father that I grew up with. I could see a tunnel with a shadowy being. And I could see Jesus on the other side of the tunnel. And then there was this white, very white light that was, it kind of reminded me of lightning. But in that moment when I was experiencing it, I felt like this is God. This is the all powerful. And I was put on this bench that I was kind of hovering over, an old, rickety kind of a bench. And I was put in front of a old fashioned white screen with a projector that was in back of me that was showing me my life review from that moment all the way to I was told by this voice that it was my time to be born, and I didn't want to be born, and they had said, but you had asked for these parents for the lessons that you needed to learn. And then at that time I was thinking, well, maybe it might not be too bad to go through that tunnel. And then I was told that it wasn't my time. And then I was shot back down into my body, where I was told to go back and tell everybody, to share the story that I had experienced, and to also tell people that I am that I am. So that, I mean, that's a little bit of a short version of the experience. There was a lot of, I would say, phenomena that, I mean, looking back, I can say that it was kind of a phenomena that I was experiencing. Just the warmth and the love that was so overwhelming, because I grew up, you know, with my father thinking that he never loved me. When I was in front of him and I was experiencing his beingness, I just felt this immense love coming from him. And it was really very confusing for me, because I thought that he never loved me. And then, of course, there was love coming from Jesus, and I always felt that I was loved by Jesus. And then there were these entities or beings that were down at the end of the tunnel, and they were kind of chanting and saying, you know, through telepathy, asking the question, is she coming? Is she coming? And this shadowy being that kept walking up and down the tunnel that I saw, where these beings were at the end of it, would come up and ask my father, is she coming? And then he would look over at Jesus, and Jesus would say, patience. And then he would tell the shadowy being, not now. And then he would go down and tell this group of beings that were waiting for me at the end, asking, is she coming? Is she coming? That experience, observing that happening, I would say probably happened 3 or 4 times. As I'm viewing my life review also in front of me, as I'm also seeing people gather below trying to rescue me. Somebody had yelled, hey, there's a woman over there drowning. Let's go save her. So there's about 4 to 5 people that had lined up, risking their lives to go out into the ocean to save me. When I was, you know, brought back down into my body, and then I popped back up out of the water, there was a young gentleman who said, you know, give me your hand, and had passed me down the chain of people that had formed and laid me on the ground. And somebody had called my boyfriend out of the water at that time, and he had come up to the beach. And I was trying to talk to him about what it was that I was experiencing.
I bet there are so
and he had
many people
gotten his head kind of close to my face and said, don't ever tell anybody that, because they'll think you're crazy and lock you up in a mental institution.
other people who are afraid, they shut them down, just like her boyfriend tried to do her.
The 70s and 80s, where everyone thought you were crazy if you said something about your near-death experience. I appreciate the short version, but I want as much more detail as you can also. Where everyone thought you were crazy if you said something about your near-death experience. I appreciate the short version, but I want as much more detail as you can also give us, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And then we'll come back to what happened in the saving portion. Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah.
I can relate to these waves, okay? Because when I was a kid, I lived in Hawaii. I got pounded by plenty of waves, and there are times where you're being held down. There are times where you're trying to swim towards shore, and you're actually going backwards out. And it's really easy to panic. It's really easy to get afraid. What in the sort of act of drowning, how were you feeling? Was it fear?
Oh, for sure. There was a moment where I realized that, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. And if I get pushed under and I go in one of those caves, I'm never going to be able to come back up. And I remember praying, please God, don't let me drown. Please let me get out of this. I felt like, I just couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch a breath. Every time I would pop back up, I was gasping for air. And there was this kind of rocky cliff that I was thinking that if I could just get over to this rocky cliff and climb up it, then I'll be okay. And finally there was a wave that did come and push me up against the cliff, and I was climbing up it. And at the time as I was climbing, there were sea urchins. It was just loaded with sea urchins and shells. And all these, I could hear the sea urchins cracking off into my body. And the wave, and I was praying, please God, don't take me. I'm not worthy to go. I haven't done enough in your name. Please don't take me. And it was at that moment that I was pulled up out of my body. And I remember observing that I was three. I was like these three entities. I was this space that I could clearly see. I was like an observer observing all three of these entities. I was this kind of face. I could see my body below, drowning, trying to get out of the waves and trying to climb up this reef with all the coral or sea urchins. And then I saw this kind of like a cloudy version of me immediately go over to the divine, to this light that reminded me of like a sharp lightning bolt, and sit right away on this, or at least hover, not really sit, but hover over this bench. And I just remember kind of experiencing that for a split second. And then my face entity joined this cloudy version that I call the spirit. I feel like that was my spirit self joining the divine right away. And then there was my soul and my personality that had left my body and separated from my spirit, and then joined it again because I wasn't dead, or I was hovering on whether I was going to die or not, I guess. And then seeing my physical body. Also at the same time, I was seeing in my life review just little things I might have said or did that might have made people uncomfortable. And I just remember feeling this icky feeling in my stomach, even though I didn't have a stomach, but because my physical body was on the ground. But I just remember feeling kind of icky about some of the things that I might have said to somebody to hurt their feelings or to do. And then I just felt like I had this whole vision of what was happening at the same time. All this stuff is going on at the same time that I'm aware of it. And then I was aware that there were like animals from Africa, like giraffes and lions and tigers, and they just all were running, and they were running away from a fire. And then I remember seeing women and children. They looked like they might have been from India, and that they were dying because they didn't have clean, safe water to drink or to cleanse themselves with. And so when I came back into my body, of course, I'm just overwhelmed. And I just remember the first thing that I said to my boyfriend was that I saw God in Jesus.
And what was his initial reaction? Was that the crazy, or did something else hit him first?
I think the fact that he said that I saw God in Jesus, I think that was his initial reaction. And then trying to mumble other things that I had experienced. His initial reaction was, people are going to think you're crazy. don't tell them that. They'll lock you up. I mean, back then, people would have obviously have thought I was, crazy.
Tell me more detail about seeing God in Jesus.
So Jesus was, all of these entities that I experienced, except for God, who was this lightning, white light. Jesus was kind of in a cloudy formation, kind of floating next on my right-hand side, next to the tunnel. And he wasn't the Christ. I remember him as Jesus as the young man that I had learned about in my catechism classes. And then there was my father. And so Jesus was dressed in these cloudy type of colors that were all kind of coming together, and gold and blue and pink. And my father had more of earth tones of brown, light brown, and tan. And then there was that shadowy being that had a real clear Elvis type of hairstyle. And he seemed to know my father, actually. The two of them, energetically, I could feel like they knew each other. There was something there that connected with the two of them.
And who was that?
I write about that in my book, actually. I don't discover that for years and years and years until afterwards. But I go into great detail in my book about who that shadowy being is. But I mean, what I was kind of afraid. I didn't know what I was going through. I was like, I'm scared. Jesus was like, I was getting the message from him. Everything's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And it was just such a warmth of love that I was feeling. I just felt like I was totally surrounded by warmth and love, and that I could just kind of let go and not be afraid, not, to be okay with whatever was going to happen, which in that short amount of time towards the end, I felt like, okay, all right, I can do this. I can walk down that tunnel. And that's when I was told that it's not my time and I have to go back and share my story with everybody and tell everyone that I am that I am.
What does that mean? I am that I am.
Exactly. What does that mean? I mean, that took pondering on that for years and years. I mean, I grew up the burning bush, right? Talking to Moses. But I think for me, what that means is I am that I am, is that God is everything, is all one. We're a part of God. We're a part of each other. We're all related. We're all connected. We're all one, whether it's spiritually, physically, physics, if you look at physics, chemistry, biologically, but all sentient beings, all are connected. It's kind of like a big spidery web, and we can feel what's going on energetically from one side to the other. We all know vibrationally and energetically that there's something else there besides just us. So for me, I am means that I am God. I am connected to God. I am just a drop in the ocean, and that God's the ocean, and I'm a drop along with many other beings.
That's really cool. You mentioned that there were beings at the end of the tunnel that were chanting. What's your insight on that? Who do you think they were, and what did they want?
I think they were a welcoming committee, kind of welcoming me there. It felt they were relatives, ancestors, or friends that I had known from somewhere in my past before that had all come together to welcome me to wherever it was I was going to be going.
Were they disappointed that you weren't able to go at that time?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't think so. As soon as I thought about joining them, I was gone, and there wasn't any other time for me to pick up what else was going on, what my father might have thought, what Jesus or the shadowy being or the entities at the end of the tunnel.
I'm wondering about a couple of things in your life review also. I've had these explained to me so many different ways. But the whole idea of a screen where you're seeing things is kind of universal, and the screen may look different to different people. But what you don't need to get into any things that maybe you feel bad about, but what kinds of things were you seeing, and what kinds of feelings were you experiencing? Guilt. You mentioned you were feeling kind of sick to your stomach. What else?
Well, I remember feeling like I wasn't such a great older sister. I was a bitch, and I was kind of mean towards my 4 brothers that basically I was in charge of. And of course, being a kid, I resented, come home from school and have to babysit. But I felt how they felt when I wasn't nice towards them.
So I try to remember that when I'm dealing with other humans, whether in my family or strangers, that would I want to feel the way that I've made them feel? And so I try to make sure it's an experience that I wouldn't mind reliving, being them instead of me.
When was the last time you woke up in the morning and said to yourself, wait, did I just sleep all night without tossing and turning? This morning, that is exactly what I did. Last night was night in the morning and said to yourself, wait, did I just sleep all night without tossing and turning? This morning, that is exactly what I did. Last night was night number 7 on our new Birch Elite Natural mattress. Let me tell you how this all happened. Over the last few months, my sweetheart and I have been waking up every morning saying something like, we have got to go mattress shopping today. But it's not always that simple. She's really sensitive to the off-gassing that happens with most new mattresses. You see, most synthetic mattresses, like memory foam ones, are made from polyurethane and other petrochemicals. That is not what we wanted to sleep on anymore. So we did our research and ordered ingredients like organic.
I didn't have a lot of experience, but a couple of significant ones were this one young girl in high school. I just remember sitting in the back of the class and seeing where I had called out and made fun of her last name, and just kind of seeing her shoulders slump and just how ridiculed and shameful she felt that I was feeling. There was a young neighbor, didn't have much money, needed to go to a wedding. She had a child, and we went looking for a dress for her to go to a wedding at the mall at the time. She couldn't afford to buy it. And I said, well, why not? Let's just go ahead. I'll take it. And so I took the dress off the rack and stole it and put it in the baby carriage. Well, we got caught. And because she was Hispanic and I was white, she was found guilty and I was found innocent. And just how that slowed up her life and made it difficult for her. But yeah, those are probably the 3 big ones. And then the other thing was, I think for me, was this, because I was so angry at my parents. It was a very dysfunctional family. My mother was an incest victim, never really recovered from that. And my father I grew up with was an alcoholic. And, they were 2 traumatized people trying to raise children together without having worked through any of their trauma. And there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of hitting, there was a lot of yelling. So I just remember when I had been told that I had chosen these parents, that was huge for me, that I had actually chosen these parents because I needed to incarnate through them in order to learn the lessons that I needed to learn, which were resilience and perseverance for me in this lifetime. So I looked at them totally different, more compassionate, and I understood that they were trying to do the best that they could with the tools that they had. Not that excused some of their behavior towards me, but it made me understand that I could have compassion for them because I understood that they had limited resources They were doing, I mean, the fact that I had, 8 children had a roof over their head and food in their stomach, that was huge. My mom growing up used to always say, be lucky you have a roof over your head and food in your stomach. And it was right. That's all they could really do, is really be able to do that.
Tell me how you came to this realization. Was this something that Jesus told you, or how did you come to know this thing about your parents and how you chose them?
That was part of my life review. That was the end of my life review, where I was told by this voice. I don't know if it was God. I don't know if it was an angel or Jesus. I don't think it was Jesus, because when I was experiencing Jesus in my near death, this was Jesus the teacher. It wasn't Jesus the Christ. I just was told in my life review that it was time for me to be born, and I had asked for these parents. That's when, and it took me, I'm not saying I came to it overnight, that all of a sudden, it was very confusing. It took years and years, and especially during those times of the 70s and 80s where, I didn't even know you couldn't even get a book that you could find out that it was a near-death experience, because that word had not even been coined by Raymond Moody yet. It wasn't until the 70s, mid-70s, I think, that Raymond Moody coined a near-death experience.
Yeah, that's true. It was mid-70s. So did you grow up Catholic? You mentioned Catholic school.
I did. My mom converted to being a Catholic, and we went to catechism. I went to catechism. I went to a Catholic school until 5th grade, and then public school, but then had to go to a catechism class every Friday.
So I'm just curious of the things that you experienced, especially being out of body and the things that you saw and experienced. Were they in line with what you had learned in catechism? Were they different? Is this part of why it's taken you so long to process all of this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because one of the concepts that I had struggled with for years was, is this a memory? Is your brain trying to remember their last memories before you die, that's imprinted as you're, going through this experience? Is that just some memory that's still living? And I don't remember. It might have been. I don't know, to tell you the truth. The only thing I knew about the I am that I am was, I had vaguely heard that that's what the bush told Moses, and that Moses, the burning bush was God. Even to this day, is this really what I am that I am means? A lot of people have different ideas about what it means to them, and I think as an individual, it's different for everybody. But I think that I was able to embrace that it was something that really happened to me because of my upbringing as a Catholic, because of my belief, and because I believed that Jesus was always with me. I knew that I was always going to be loved no matter what. I feel that helped me make it real, that experience real to me. But it took a long time for me to be comfortable to be able to talk about it, because
how hard it would be.
Honestly, I didn't know if I was going crazy, if I was making things up, or if I just was imagining all this.
But you experiencing it can tell that this is real. This really happened to me. But then there's a part of your mind that's saying, no, that's not possible. Everybody's telling you it's not real. That would be so hard and so confusing.
Of, drowning, but then after I did, my research, and over the years, I've done a lot of research, and I became a member of IONS, the International Association of Near-Death Conference. I've had 3 PhDs. Students do studies on near-death experiences. Anyways, it's worked out to where it's like you said, I've kind of ticked off all the little spots that make this known, that this is what other people have shared with similarities, that this is a near-death experience. I might not have died on the operating table and been out of it for 20 minutes or something, but my experience was definitely an out-of-body experience, that I probably was taken out of my body before the actual drowning incident, but I definitely was drowning.
Oh, yeah. And that happens a lot when there are things that are really traumatizing, ways of dying, horrible traffic accidents, things like that. I hear this all the time, so that you don't necessarily have to experience all of it. All right, I want to get back to physically what happened with the people that saved you and stuff. But before I do, was there anything else from the experience you wanted to fill in that I didn't ask about?
I think that I pretty much got everything.
Okay, you did